The city of Nanjing wept, not with sorrow, but with the relentless gray tears of late autumn rain, a shroud descending upon its ancient stones and gleaming modern towers alike. For Li Jun, the rain was a familiar companion, a constant drumming against the window of his cramped university office, mirroring the persistent throb in his temples. Once, he had been Dr. Li Jun, a forensic pathologist of unmatched brilliance, a rising star in the Ministry of Public Security. Now, he was merely Professor Li, a ghost haunting lecture halls, his sharp mind dulled by cheap baijiu and the specter of a case that had devoured his career and sanity 27 years ago. The Diao Aiqing case. The name itself was a brand on his soul. 1996. A young woman, dismembered with a precision that had shocked even the most hardened investigators. But it wasn't just the brutality that had fixated Li Jun. It was the artistry. Each piece meticulously cleaned, sorted, packaged, left in various locations across Nanjing. Not an act of rage, he had argued. Not a simple disposal. A ritual. A grotesque performance. His superiors had dismissed his theories as the rantings of a madman. His insistence on ritualistic intent, his refusal to label it as a conventional crime, had led to his professional downfall. He saw patterns where others saw chaos, art where others saw savagery. And for that, he was outcast. The thrum of his phone broke through the alcoholic haze. An unknown number. He almost ignored it, but something in the insistent vibration spoke of urgency. "Professor Li?" A voice crackled. Young, formal, yet with an underlying tremor. "This is Detective Chen, Nanjing Police. We need your expertise. It's urgent," Li Jun scoffed, a dry, humorless sound. "My expertise?" "Detective, my expertise was retired with extreme prejudice 2 decades ago. I teach dead languages, not dead bodies. Please, Professor. It's about a missing student. Wang Lu. She's the daughter of Captain Wang, your old colleague." The name hit Li Jun like a physical blow. Wang, his only friend in that suffocating world of crime and consequence. A man who had tried to defend him, however futilely. Lu, his daughter. A quiet, studious girl he remembered as a child, playing in the hallways of the ministry building. What happened? Li Jun's voice was suddenly sober, edged with a dangerous alertness. She disappeared 3 days ago, from the university campus. No witnesses, no ransom note, just gone. Chen hesitated, and then, "This arrived for you, Professor. Anonymously. A package." Li Jun's gaze drifted to the small, unaddressed parcel on his desk, nestled amidst his chaotic stacks of forgotten textbooks and empty bottles. He'd barely registered it earlier, dismissing it as junk mail. His fingers, trembling slightly, reached for it. Inside, nestled in protective foam, was a lacquered wooden box, exquisitely crafted. Black, with delicate red and gold calligraphy adorning its lid. It was a work of art in itself. He lifted the lid. The single object within gleamed dully in the weak lamplight. A human phalanx bone, perfectly cleaned, polished to an unnerving sheen, the kind of meticulous preparation only seen in anatomical museums, or something far more sinister. On its smooth surface, etched with startling precision, was a single ancient Chinese character, Jing. Jing, meaning pure or clean. Li Jun felt a cold dread seep into his bones, colder than the Nanjing rain. The distinctive scent of traditional Chinese herbs, subtle yet pervasive, wafted from the box. His breath hitched. This wasn't just a threat. This was a signature, unmistakable. The artisan of 1996 had returned. "Detective Chen," Li Jun said, his voice a low growl, the weariness suddenly replaced by a terrifying clarity. I'm on my way. Nanjing at night was a city of fractured light and deep shadows. Neon glowed off, rain-slicked skyscrapers, while below, the ancient times Hutong's asterisk, narrow alleyways choked with history, and damp, swallowed the light whole. Li Jun navigated the familiar labyrinth in a dilapidated taxi, the city's ceaseless hum, a stark contrast to the silence that had surrounded Diao Aiqing's ghost for so long. Detective Chen was younger than Li Jun had expected, barely 30, sharp-eyed and impeccably dressed in a dark suit despite the downpour. He met Li Jun in the deserted lobby of the police station, a nervous energy radiating from him. "Professor Li," Chen said, extending a hand. His grip was firm. "Thank you for coming. I know this is unorthodox." Li Jun merely nodded, his gaze assessing. Chen had an earnestness about him, an almost academic reverence in his eyes that Li Jun found both intriguing and unsettling. "Tell me everything," Li Jun commanded, his voice raspy. They sat in a small, windowless interrogation room, the fluorescent lights humming overhead. Chen laid out the case files, photos of Wang Lu, a bright, smiling girl, grainy CCTV footage of her last known movements near the university gates, witness statements all frustratingly vague. "No leads," Chen admitted, running a hand through his short, neat hair. "It's like she vanished into the rain itself." Li Jun placed the lacquered box and the polished bone on the table. "This is your lead, detective." Chen picked up the bone, his brow furrowing. "What is this?" "Evidence. From 27 years ago. Only now. It's a message." "He's back." Li Jun watched Chen closely, searching for any flicker of disbelief, but the young detective's expression remained intent, almost reverent. "The Diao Aiqing case," Chen murmured, his gaze fixed on the bone. "I've read your original reports, Professor. Your theories, they were dismissed, but I always found them compelling. The ritualistic intent, the precision, it suggested a different kind of course. Monster." A spark ignited in Li Jun's chest, a long dormant ember fanned by Chen's words. For 2 decades, he had been ridiculed, his insights dismissed as madness. Now, a young detective, untainted by the political machinations of the past, was listening. "He is not a monster, detective," Li Jun said, his voice low, intense. "He is an artist, a sculptor. He sees the human body as his medium, and death as the ultimate canvas." Chen leaned forward, his eyes wide. "You believe he's trying to replicate the 1996 crime?" "No," Li Yun corrected, shaking his head. "Not replicate. Continue. The first was an opening. This is a second movement. He wants an audience, Chen. And he knows. I'm the only one who truly understood his first performance." Over the next few days, Li Jun, operating with the unexpected and almost unconditional access granted by Detective Chen, plunged back into the abyss. He haunted the cold case archives, poring over the faded photographs of Diao Aiqing's remains, each piece a silent scream frozen in time. He visited the modern Nanjing University campus, its bustling energy a thin veneer over ancient secrets. The rain never ceased, a constant reminder of the pervasive dampness that seemed to permeate everything, including the city's buried history. Chen was an eager student, almost too eager. He listened to Li Jun's explanations of ancient philosophical texts, of obscure medical diagrams depicting the human body as a landscape of energy flows and hidden meridians. He nodded intently as Li Jun detailed the specific cuts, the anatomical knowledge, the almost surgical precision that defied a killer driven by passion or madness. "He's a master of traditional Chinese medicine," Li Jun theorized, tracing a finger over a faded autopsy report. or calligraphy, or both. The way the body was disassembled, it wasn't random. It followed a schema, an internal logic, a sick, twisted philosophy. Chen provided secure access to the current crime scene. Wang Lu's dorm room, her belongings still arranged as if she might return at any moment. He allowed Li Jun to examine the minimal clues, the subtle shifts in dust patterns, the faint, almost imperceptible scent of sandalwood and something metallic like iron. He cleans up meticulously, Li Jun observed, his eyes scanning every surface with forensic intensity. He doesn't leave sloppy evidence. He leaves statements. One evening, as they were poring over a map of Nanjing, tracing the various drop-off points of Diao Aiqing's remains, Chen spoke in a hushed tone. "Professor, you mentioned a philosophy. What exactly did you mean?" Li Jun hesitated, remembering the scorn his theories had garnered. But Chen's genuine curiosity, his unwavering belief, emboldened him. He believes the human body is the ultimate art form. By deconstructing it, piece by piece, according to a rigorous ritualistic process, he believes he can achieve a form of spiritual enlightenment, artistic immortality. He's not killing to destroy, he's killing to create. Chen was silent for a long moment, his gaze distant. A terrifying concept, to believe brutality can be art. Terrifying, but not supernatural, Li Jun emphasized. This isn't a ghost story, detective. It's about human obsession, twisted logic, and fanaticism. As the days bled into weeks, Li Jun felt the old intoxicating thrill of the chase return, mixed with a chilling dread. He was becoming the man he once was, sharp, analytical, driven. But the cost felt heavier this time. He was pulling Chen deeper into his own personal hell. He noticed subtle things about Chen, moments of almost uncanny insight, or perhaps familiarity. A knowing glance when Li Jun spoke of the sculptor's meticulous nature, a slight stiffening when he discussed the philosophical underpinnings of the murders. Li Jun dismissed it as a young detective's acute perception, a hunger for knowledge. He was grateful for the ally, for the validation, until the map. They had been charting the drop-off points of Diao Aiqing's remains, trying to find a pattern, a geometric design, anything that might reveal the sculptor's intent. Li Jun had hypothesized that the locations formed a specific calligraphic stroke, an obscure character. He worked late into the night, fueled by stale tea and a new, more potent brand of baijiu. He had a breakthrough, a sudden flash of insight, identifying the character as a rare variant of Sheng, Sheng meaning life or birth. It was a horrifying paradox, an ode to life expressed through dismemberment. He showed it to Chen the next morning. Chen stared at the map, at the overlaid lines forming the character. A strange smile, fleeting but undeniably present, touched his lips. It was not a smile of triumph or understanding, but something colder, older, something possessive. "Remarkable, Professor," Chen said, his voice smooth. "You truly are a master." Then, Chen made a small adjustment to one of the lines, a minute shift that perfected the stroke, aligning it with an obscure detail Li Jun had missed. "He uses the Changji input method, not pinyin," Chen explained, almost casually. "The strokes would be more precise this way." Li Jun froze. The Changji input method was an ancient, complex system of Chinese character input, based on the graphical components of characters, not their pronunciation. It was a detail so specific, so arcane, that only a true scholar of calligraphy, or someone intimately familiar with the sculptor's methods, would know it. A cold, sickening wave washed over Li Jun. The meticulous access, the immediate belief, the almost perfect understanding. It wasn't admiration. It was intimate knowledge. Chen was not an ally. He was the bait. And Li Jun, the disgraced forensic pathologist, was the trap. The realization hit Li Jun with the force of a physical blow. He replayed every conversation, every interaction with Chen, through a new, terrifying lens. The reverence in Chen's eyes was not for a mentor, but for an unwitting participant in a grand, morbid drama. Li Jun was not solving the case. He was being led. He feigned ignorance, allowing Chen to guide him, but his mind raced, seeking an escape, a way to turn the tables. He needed to find Wang Lu, and he knew, with chilling certainty, that Chen would lead him directly to her. Chen proposed a visit to a remote antique shop in one of Nanjing's oldest districts, a place known for its rare calligraphy supplies. "Professor," Chen had said, his voice laced with an unctuous eagerness, "I believe the sculptor might have sourced some of his tools here. Perhaps a specific type of brush, or rare ink, used in traditional purification rituals." Li Jun agreed, his heart a drum against his ribs. This was it, the end game. The antique shop was nestled deep within a Times Hutong asterisk, its ancient wooden facade blending seamlessly with the perpetual rain-darkened stone. Inside, it smelled of dust, old paper, and a faint, sweet scent of incense. The shop was small, cluttered with scrolls, jade carvings, and intricately painted porcelain. A wizened old woman sat behind a counter, her eyes sharp and knowing. She gave Li Jun a long, unsettling look as he entered. Chen led Li Jun to the back, through a beaded curtain, into a storage room filled with more dusty artifacts. In the corner, almost hidden, was a narrow wooden staircase leading down. "The owner mentioned a cellar," Chen explained, his voice losing its forced cheerfulness, replaced by a subtle, predatory undertone. "Said it was once a private calligraphy studio. Perhaps a good place to start?" Li Jun knew. He felt it in the prickle on his neck, the sudden chill that had nothing to do with the damp air. He followed Chen down, his hand subtly reaching for the small, heavy rock he had palmed from the cluttered shelf upstairs. The cellar was not what he expected. It was not dusty or antique. It was sterile, almost surgical. Fluorescent lights hummed, casting a stark, cold glow on the polished concrete floor. Walls were lined with cabinets containing meticulously organized tools. Scalpels, bone saws, an array of traditional Chinese needles, brushes, and small collared, delicate instruments Li Jun recognized as those used in both calligraphy and ancient medical practices. The air was clean, devoid of the musty scent of the shop above, replaced by the faint, unsettling smell of antiseptic and sandalwood. In the center of the room, on a stainless steel table, lay Wang Lu. She was alive, but deeply unconscious, her body serene, almost luminous under the harsh lights. She wore a simple white robe, her long hair fanned out around her head. Her skin was clean, almost translucent. She was being prepared. "A beautiful specimen, wouldn't you agree, Professor?" A voice said, calm and resonant, from the shadows. A man emerged. He was old, his face a roadmap of fine wrinkles, his hair a wispy white bun atop his head. His eyes, however, were sharp, intelligent, almost incandescent. He wore a traditional scholar's robe, and his hands, though aged, were steady, precise, the hands of a craftsman. He carried a small, incredibly delicate calligraphy brush. This was him, the sculptor, the artisan, the monster. "Welcome, Professor Li," the old man said, a faint smile playing on his lips. "I had hoped you would understand. My only worthy audience has finally arrived." Li Jun felt a surge of cold fury, mixed with the terrifying realization that he had walked directly into the maw of the beast. Chen stood silently behind him, his face devoid of emotion. A loyal acolyte. "You've been leading me here, haven't you, Chen?" Li Jun's voice was strained, hoarse. "My father needed an audience, Professor," Chen replied, his voice flat, devoid of the earlier reverence. "He values your mind. He believes you are the only one who can truly appreciate his magnum opus." "Your father." Li Jun stared at the old man, then back at Chen, the pieces of the horrifying puzzle clicking into place. The shared knowledge, the specific insights. It was a lineage, a shared obsession passed down through generations. "Indeed," the sculptor said, his voice calm, almost serene. "My son is a dutiful apprentice. He has learned well." He gestured to Wang Lu. "The girl is nearly ready. A perfect vessel. Pure, unblemished." Li Jun's gaze hardened. "You're sick." The sculptor chuckled, a dry, papery sound. "Sickness is a perception, Professor. I merely seek truth. The body, in its fragmented state, reveals deeper truths about existence. It is a canvas, a map of the universe within us. My art allows for a glimpse into the infinite. You cut people apart." Li Jun roared, his voice echoing in the sterile room. "With precision, with respect, with the understanding of a scholar, not a butcher." The sculptor picked up a small, gleaming scalpel, its edge catching the light. "You see, Professor, this is where your theories diverged. You understood the ritual, the artistry, but you failed to grasp the spiritual transcendence. You saw only brutality, not enlightenment. Enlightenment through mutilation? That's not enlightenment, it's madness." "A distinction for the unenlightened," the sculptor countered, his eyes glinting. "But enough philosophy. The performance is about to begin, and you, Professor, will have the best seat in the house." He made a small gesture to Chen. "My son will ensure you remain attentive." Chen moved, swift and silent, blocking the narrow doorway. Li Jun was trapped. He looked at Wang Lu, so still, so vulnerable, and felt a burning resolve. He wouldn't let this monster finish his art. "You talk of precision," Li Jun said, his mind racing, trying to find a weakness in the sculptor's chillingly logical facade. "Of order, of perfect arrangement." "Indeed, order is paramount. Chaos is the enemy of art." The sculptor's eyes flickered with a strange, almost manic intensity. "Then let's test your order," Li Jun snarled. With a sudden, violent shove, Li Jun overturned a nearby cabinet filled with glass vials and meticulously arranged instruments. The sound of shattering glass, clattering metal, and liquid sloshing across the pristine floor was deafening in the sterile silence. The sculptor cried out, a sound of pure anguish, not for the confrontation, but for the desecration of his sanctuary. "No, my tools, my arrangements." His face contorted, his serene mask cracking to reveal a deeper primal fury. Chen moved to restrain Li Jun, but Li Jun was ready. The rock he had palmed from the shop, a heavy, jagged piece of jade, swung in a brutal arc, connecting with Chen's temple. Chen staggered, a grunt escaping him, blood blossoming on his face. Li Jun didn't wait. He lunged at the sculptor, not with skill or grace, but with the desperate, primal fury of a cornered animal. The sculptor, momentarily stunned by the chaos, fumbled with the scalpel. "You destroy my art!" The sculptor shrieked, no longer the calm philosopher, but a fanatic driven to madness by the disruption of his sacred order. He thrust the scalpel, a precise, practiced movement, aiming for Li Jun's abdomen. But Li Jun had spent a lifetime studying cuts, understanding the mechanics of a body under assault. He twisted, the blade slicing across his forearm, a shallow but painful wound. Blood welled, bright crimson against his jacket. He grabbed the sculptor's wrist, twisting with all his strength. The old man, though strong, was not prepared for the desperate ferocity of a man who had nothing left to lose. The scalpel clattered to the floor. Chen, shaking off the blow, lunged again. Li Jun saw him. In his peripheral vision, a blur of rage. He knew he couldn't fight both of them in this confined space, especially with Wang Lu lying vulnerable nearby. His gaze swept the chaotic room. Broken glass, spilled liquids, scattered tools. He saw a small metal tray, still clinging to a cabinet shelf, laden with a dozen acupuncture needles, glinting like silver slivers. With a desperate surge of adrenaline, Li Jun ripped the tray free, flinging the needles at Chen. Chen cried out, a needle lodging in his shoulder, another in his thigh. He stumbled, momentarily incapacitated by the sharp, unexpected pain. Li Jun tackled the sculptor, slamming him against the stainless steel table where Wang Lu lay. The old man gasped, his head hitting the metal with a sickening thud. But he was resilient, fueled by his fanaticism. He clawed at Li Jun, his fingers surprisingly strong, trying to gouge at his eyes. Li Jun knew he couldn't simply overpower him. He had to break him. He grabbed a handful of the scattered calligraphy brushes, delicate tools now smeared with blood and antiseptic, and thrust them into the sculptor's face, shattering the illusion of artistry, of purity. "This is your art?" Li Yun snarled, his voice guttural. "This chaos? This destruction? Is this your enlightenment?" The sculptor's eyes, once so sharp, now swam with confusion, then terror. The desecration of his tools, his sanctuary, his perceived order, was unraveling his mind. He thrashed, a pathetic, desperate struggle. Li Jun saw a heavy brass inkwell, spilled on the floor. With a desperate lunge, he grabbed it and brought it down with all his remaining strength on the sculptor's head. There was a sickening crunch. The old man went limp, silence. Heavy, suffocating silence, broken only by Li Jun's ragged breathing and Chen's groans from where he lay slumped against the wall. Li Jun stumbled back, his arm throbbing, his chest heaving. He looked at the still form of the sculptor, then at Chen, whose eyes, though clouded with pain, held a flicker of something akin to awe, or perhaps horror at his father's defeat. He moved to Wang Lu, his hands shaking. He checked her pulse, weak but steady. She was alive. He had saved her. He looked around the ruined studio, the shattered glass reflecting the cold, sterile light. The meticulous order, the painstaking precision, was gone, replaced by a violent, chaotic mess. He had proven his theory correct. The monster was real. But he had also confirmed a far more terrifying truth. The most frightening monsters were not phantoms, but humans who twisted reason into atrocity, who believed that savagery could be art. The rain still fell outside, washing Nanjing clean. But for Li Jun, the stains on his soul would never truly fade. He had confronted his demon, dragged it into the light, and destroyed it. But the ghost of 1996, now truly laid to rest, would forever haunt the shattered corners of his mind. He had won, but the victory felt as heavy and cold as the Nanjing rain. He had saved a life, but lost a piece of himself in the brutal confrontation, proving that even in the face of such monstrous human cruelty, sometimes, to fight a monster, you had to become something close to it.